Whoa. No cheating. All right. So tonight, okay, if you're anybody that works with me, you already knew what I was going to talk about. But I want to break down, I feel like what's a pretty common topic or something that we get as coaches asked quite a bit. And it's, should I be doing more cardio? Should I be doing more strength training or resistance training? And I feel like as a coach, we get asked that a lot because there's a lot of confusion about, what's better, what's best. So hopefully we can kind of break down some of those barriers and I can put my little expertise on it. So with that, first question that's probably the most important to address is which is best, right? So I'm going to turn to you guys first and ask what you prefer or what you do most. So what are you guys typically doing? Are you a cardio person or are you a weights or resistance training?
All of them.
All of them? What do you do more of?
Weights.
Weights?
Probably cardio because of boxing.
Yeah. Kelly?
Cardio.
Yeah. Who else?
Weight training and in cardio, both.
Yep. Yeah, and what you're gonna find is there's a lot of overlap, right? Even in like cardio, we can do forms of HIIT where we're still moving using dumbbells and resistance, but we're doing it in some form of a Tabata or an EMOM or something like that. But all right, another question for you guys. So which one do you think is better for weight loss?
Weights.
Weights?
Yeah, weights.
Weights?
Put it in the chat. What do you think? Drop it in the chat.
Yeah, let's see.
Weights or cardio? Weights or cardio? Which one?
Weights. All right, we're getting a little bit of both.
I can't figure out the chat. I'm gonna say both.
Say it out loud, Walker. Like who thinks what?
Okay.
So we can.
Yeah, we got Kim Nelson, cardio. Kathy said both. Trent Hunter said we got weights. Andre said weights. Chris said both. Daniel said weightlifting, cardio. Trina said weights. We got another both. Yeah, we got a good mix of both. So all right, one more question for you, and this is a trick question, but which one do you think is better for fat loss, or does that change your answer? Let's see it in the chat again.
You do the chat.
Does it change your answer, or if you don't know the difference, we'll break that down quick here soon too.
Hi.
All right. I feel like we got a lot more weights in that one. There's some both. Maurice said both. Trina said weights. Blake said weights. Yeah, we got a lot more weights in your fat loss. And I will concur to that I also agree to that. So that being said, your goals will heavily influence which one's better for you. Obviously, if you have some performance goal and maybe it's running a 5K or running a marathon, then realistically, the number one thing you should probably be doing is running, right? But if your goal is to simply lose body fat, then I'm going to lean more towards strength training and resistance training being your main form, but both play a role in that. And I'm going to take a little bit of time here to kind of explain both and why you'll notice that I favor strength training a little bit more. But a lot of you guys are already right with that. And used together, right, is the best way to achieve ultimate fat loss, right? So obviously we want to use them both together. Fat loss is always going to be better than weight loss, right? When a lot of you guys, when you come in, you're set on some goal number that you're trying to hit, right? Maybe it's, I'm trying to lose 20 pounds. I'm trying to lose 10, 20, 30, whatever the case may be. That being said, if you were to just lose weight and not have any form of activity, right? Just do it simply diet alone, you really are likely to probably lose, equal parts of fat. You're going to lose some muscle as well in the process, without some kind of stimulus to tell your body to hold on to the muscle mass that you have. So fat loss is when we can apply some kind of stimulus like cardio or like strength training or anywhere in between to help preserve muscle mass while we lose weight. Therefore, the weight that's being lost is going to be strictly fat. And I'm going to show you some real examples here in just a little bit. But I've said this once and I'll say it again. If I had to choose just one over the other, if I was forced, right? Tie my hands up and make me choose one, I'll choose strength training. And here's some of the reasons why. So when we look at some of the pros and cons of strength training, I think the first and most important thing to point out is strength training or resistance training. They're terms that you can flip-flop, right? It doesn't have to be heavy lifting. So oftentimes when we talk about weights or strength training or resistance training, you think your common thought is that you have to go into a gym and use a heavy barbell and do all these other things with really heavy weight, right? And that's actually, in my opinion, a misconception a little bit, because I think there's a lot of things that we can do that still apply resistance to your body that can help you put on strength and maintain muscle mass without having to even touch a dumbbell or a barbell for sorts. But some of the pros, like I keep talking about, is stimulating your muscle. So when that happens, right, it causes muscle growth. So when we have that stimulation to the muscle, it's going to help signal to your body that while you're losing weight, it needs to preserve and hold on to muscle mass. It's an adaptation that our body goes through. And one of the ways that we do that is through what we call progressive overload. So all that is that every week when you're working out, you're doing something to make it slightly more difficult, right? Whether it's adding more weight, adding more reps, adding more sets, anything like that. Another one is, it's pretty common that we'll hear, muscle burns more than fat. I even saw it in some of the comments. I think Kathy had said it, maybe Trent as well. So you guys know this already, but to be exact, they say that per pound of muscle, every pound of muscle burns roughly 7 to 10 calories a day, where every pound of fat only burns about 2 to 3 calories a day. So when you look at, right, carrying more muscle mass, which is what we're primarily going to do through strength training, in the long term, it's going to help your body have what we would call, right, a higher metabolism, where you're burning more calories naturally throughout the day. And that's by putting more muscle onto your frame. Some of the cons, risk of injury is a big one. It's a big reason I think a lot of people shy away from weights, especially if it's something that they're new to or haven't done before, right? I'm sure if some of you have, I know I've worked with people that have never really done much with a barbell or any form of exercise. So it can be really intimidating, right, to grab a hold of dumbbells or anything and know what the heck to get started with. So one, turn to your coaches for that. But two, that's why it's important to, pay attention to our form and that we're starting with appropriate weights and all that stuff. So again, that's why you guys are in this. That's why you guys have coaches. And then one other con is with strength training workouts, you're typically burning less calories during that workout. So if you guys did, a 30-minute workout of strength training, you're probably going to burn somewhere between 150 to 300 calories. But if you guys were to do something that was cardio based, you're likely to burn 300 or 250 to like 400 calories. So, almost 1.5 times the amount of calories that you're burning through strength training. So I'm going to break down a few of the pros, cons, and stuff that we think of with cardio. But that being said, my picture maybe gives away one of the answers I'm looking for. But when you think of cardio, or you're doing cardio or told cardio, what's one of your go-tos? What do you typically do? What do you think of?
Stair climber.
What was that, stair climber?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's one of my
Running.
go-tos. What else we got?
Treadmill running.
Yep, treadmill running. I was gonna say that one, in my opinion, is probably the most
Hit.
common that we hear.
Hit is a good one.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
it, hit.
Yep. And hit can be anything and everything, right? You can, that's the nice thing about it is you can tax yourself quickly or stretch it out and do all sorts of different, modalities as they call it. So dumbbells, or you can throw a barbell in there, use your body, use different machines, all sorts of stuff. So
Pulling tires is a real good one. A
doing
really
what?
good. Pulling tires. I pull tires in the summer.
Oh, see, there you go.
You strap
When
it
I
to
was
your
younger,
waist.
I used to have to split wood all the time. That was cardio, let me tell you. But yeah, there's a lot of different things when it comes to cardio. I think either one, you can kind of explore your horizons there. But typically, if you asked me, if you were just telling me that you're going to do some cardio, I'm probably thinking running, right? That you're going to go for a run, and I think that that's pretty common amongst most. But when we look at cardio as a whole, it's going to be a little bit polar opposite of strength training, but you are going to burn more calories. Like I said, typically you're going to burn somewhere between 250 to 400 calories in 30 minutes. And another big pro for cardio, and why we definitely want to do both, is it promotes cardiovascular health. So a healthier heart, right? Forcing your heart to beat a lot harder. Your lungs, right? Where you're not out of breath going up a flight of stairs. All of those things, which can be improved quicker through forms of cardio where you're forcing your heart rate to spike and elevate. But some of the cons that we look at is with cardio, unless we're doing something like HIIT where we're using weight in a form of resistance, it's oftentimes there's not a lot of muscle stimulation. So when you think of something that you just do at a steady pace for 20, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it may be, like running or rowing or the Stairmaster, there's not a whole lot of muscle stimulation there. It's actually causing your muscles to break down and adapt and rebuild and all of that. So it's what's called catabolic, where it's essentially, muscle breaking down and not repairing, as opposed to something like strength training where you have bouts of rest for whatever it is, 60, 90 seconds. So it's not real conducive of muscle growth, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't build muscle doing cardio either. So some of those examples though, we kind of hit them on the head, but the elliptical, HIIT, running, walking, and yes, I still consider walking a form of cardio, especially if that's more activity than you've been getting in a long time. So, geez, I don't know how I got all these colors all over there. I think it was happening while we were on the call, but someone was trying to draw on my presentation here. But if you remember from the beginning, I will highly encourage both. And a big reason behind that is because we can see more calories burned when we do cardio, but we also want to do something where we can stimulate and cause that muscle growth. Again, if I have to choose one, I'm going to choose strength training. And that doesn't mean that you have to go in and work out in a gym, right? Push-ups, squats, pull-ups, all that body weight stuff, that can still be a form of resistance. A way of mixing in both, to me, is, a lot of you guys use Trainerize, and with that, it's scheduling you out 3 days a week, right? And it's either a mix of cardio, or you might be a mix of cardio and weights, or you might just be in a dumbbell program or a weights program. But anytime you're doing resistance training, like heavy resistance training, really you should give that muscle group worked, right? 24 to 72 hours on the high end to recover from that strength training. So in my theory there is, if you're going to lift 3 days a week, that gives you 24 to 48 hours before your next lift. But in that meantime, how about the day between you do your cardio? Right? Do 3 days a week of lifting and 2 days a week cardio, or do a mix of both on some of those days. And it's a way to sneak in both so that you can burn more calories, but also get some of the composition that you're looking for when we talk about that fat loss and weight loss. One thing that I found really cool is there was a study done, and it's for you guys that favor a little bit more cardio over resistance training. They did a study on these cross-country runners. They were high school cross-country runners, and none of them were in any form of resistance training program. All they did was run. I think they were running like 5 days a week it was, and they actually cut their running down to 3 days a week. and they gave them 2 days a week to do a lower body resistance training program. And they did it for like 8 weeks or 12 weeks, something like that. But either way, they increased their running time by like almost 10%, just because they were able to create a little more power and force through their legs, have a little more muscle, which would then pull them farther along through a 3-mile race. So I just thought it was a really cool thing that they talk about. And that being said, I always find this really cool. And if you've never thought of this or never been told this, right, when you look at a sprinter compared to a distance runner, right, these are both extremes that you're seeing here in this picture. But oftentimes somebody that's a professional level sprinter is going to look much more like Eric there on the right. And a long distance runner is going to be much thinner, and it's because their body has no need for that muscle mass, right? So it's trying to adapt to the extensive amount of miles that they're putting in. And as a form of that, they don't carry much muscle mass. They don't look super defined, right? And if I were to ask most of you, especially any guys in here, I would imagine you probably want to look like the sprinter as opposed to the distance runner, right? Maybe even some of the ladies. I don't know if you want to be quite that big, but that's up to you guys. So I put it in there, but really, if you did a body fat test on both of those runners, I would bet that they are pretty close to being the same body fat percent or within a couple percent of each other. So it really is just a true tale to the difference between carrying muscle mass and not carrying any muscle mass. And carrying a larger amount of muscle mass is what gives you that defined and that chiseled look that a lot of you guys want and look for, right? When you talk about your arms, wanting your arms to be tighter so they're not flabby, or right, wanting to tighten up our midsection and get some abs, right? Tighten up our butts, things like that. A lot of that comes by actually adding more muscle mass to your frame. So it's not always weight loss that's the end goal there. I put it in there, but any ladies in here, sometimes we as coaches get that you're afraid of resistance training, right? Or lifting because you don't want to get bulky or super muscular. And what I'll tell you is I promise you, your bodies do not create enough testosterone and other growth hormones to physically make you look like that sprinter on the right. So you guys, it'll be for your benefit, I promise. But I wanted to share kind of a cool testimonial to some of the clients that I work with. The one in the top right is me, about a year and a half ago. But Carissa up there in the top left, Kelly in the bottom left, and Stephanie in the bottom right. All three of them had, as you guys can tell, pretty insane transformations, if you ask me. And not one of them up there besides me lost more than 10 pounds. I think Stephanie was 7 or 8 pounds. Kelly's about 7 or 8, and Carissa was like right at 10. But realistically, I think if you were looking at these pictures and knew nothing, that you would guess that a lot of them had lost more than that. And I would have asked that, but I know you guys have seen on Matt's story and stuff that he shared some of these, so you guys already knew the answers. But I know Kelly's on here, and I think Carissa is as well. So make sure you guys give them a little round of applause for some of the transformation that they've seen. I think it's well deserved. But again, that's just some of the testament to getting away from a little bit of the scale and understanding that putting on some muscle mass and maybe not hitting that goal number that you originally had isn't that bad of an idea if we can get you to add some muscle mass to your frame and actually lose pure fat mass instead of just weight. So my intention out of this was to kind of point to that, let you guys see what a little bit of that looks like. And then I want to finish, before I go to the book of the month, just kind of, obviously you can tell I'm favoring strength training, but I want to simplify it a little bit. So understand this, that if you're starting from square one, right, you right now, I mean, hopefully none of you are this way, but let's say you are coming from sitting on the couch pretty much every day or just working from a desk and that's about it. About anything is a form of stimulus. So even if it is walking, right, that is something more than your body is used to and has done in a while. So that will still cause enough of a stimulus to help with some muscle. But the thing is, like I talked about, is you have to progressively overload. So one way to do that
I'm gonna start
is
cooking.
to there you go, is to continue to increase things like your reps, increase your weight, increase your sets, right? You can do it faster, right? So if you're doing a form of cardio, one way to say you regularly run, and normally, right, it's like I'm going to go for a 3-mile run or a 1-mile run. Want to try and overload yourself and get better? Try and do it a second faster, right? Try and run a 1/10 of a mile longer than you did the day before. If you're using weights, right, maybe it's day by day or week by week, but you're trying to increase the weight that you used. Or if you can't increase the weight, try and hit another rep than you hit the week before when you did that workout. Right, these are all ways to overload your nervous system slightly to force your body to want to create more muscle mass, hold the muscle mass that's there, and ultimately get you guys the composition that you're shooting for. It's why all of us are here, right? Trying to make some change for our health. And usually part of that includes us looking better. So just understand whatever you're doing, talk to your coaches, and don't get complacent with the exercise that you're doing. There's always a way to make it a little more challenging and step up your game. So I'll conclude here with our book of the month. And if you guys haven't read it or don't know who Sean Stevenson is, he's written 2 books now. His first book was actually called Sleep Smarter, where he talks all about, increase or how to improve your sleep patterns. And it's a laundry list of things that you can be doing to help set your circadian rhythms and stuff. And he recently, this is already a bestseller, but came out with Eat Smarter. And Eric, I don't know, are you checking to see if it's on Audible? All right. I think you're muted, but I think you shook your head. Yeah.
It is.
All
It's
right,
on.
yeah. So it's on Audible, but some of the cool things that he points out is he talks a little bit about, I mentioned it earlier, but the caloric demands of muscle versus fat. He relates a lot of analogies to real life. Sometimes it's a little overboard, you might say, but he relates a lot of things back to real life. He talks about, although our main focus is our macros and our calorie consumption, there's still a lot of ways to improve the way that you eat so that you're not as bloated and all those other things. So he talks about that. And then he talks about some of the food choices that you can have to continue to ramp up your metabolism through both the food choices and your exercise. So that's all I have on the topic tonight. But if you guys have any questions on, strength training or cardio or anything in between, you can feel free to mention it. Otherwise, you guys are more than welcome to slowly peel out of here. But thanks for giving me, about 30 minutes of your time. And we got any questions? Are we good?
Who's got questions? Somebody's got a question.
Come on. Otherwise, I just did fantastic. So.
Awesome job.
Hey, thank you.
What do you
All right.
consider overtraining?
When would I consider overtraining?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, all right, good question. So,
Hey, Walker, before you go, can you stop share or stop
Oh.
screen share and
stop recording.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
open up the view to everybody's face?